Hello and welcome to another video in the How Do I Do Something in CloudBolt video series. My name is Mike Bombard and I'm a principal cloud architect here at CloudBolt. And in this video, we're going to be walking through how do I migrate CloudBolt to Oracle Enterprise Linux 8. So as of CloudBolt 2024.1, the CentOS 7 operating system is no longer supported for the CloudBolt application. So as part of this video, we're going to be walking through, this is my first upgrade. I've actually put this off for the better part of the past year. I've been leveraging the same CloudBolt instance for the last 5 years. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff that has accumulated over a 5-year period that we're going to try and work through together on this video to see how to get things over to the Enterprise Linux 8 operating system. So for the agenda, we're going to start out with a little bit of background, just show my lab setup, show what we're working with. Then we're going to talk through deploying a new CloudBolt appliance. And each of these steps also aligns with the recommended procedures in the documentation. But we're going to deploy a new CloudBolt appliance. I would recommend both having your new CloudBolt appliance deployed at 2023.5.103, as well as making sure that your existing CentOS 7 appliance is also upgraded to 2023.5.103. Regardless of what version you go with, again, 2024 does not support the CentOS system, so you do want to do something. 5.103 is the last 2023 release, so I think that's a great choice for most customers. That way you can align your new deployment with your existing deployment. If these do not align, your database schemas when you export from one and import to the other won't match, and it'll cause all kinds of havoc. So the big idea here is something that's on 2023, probably .4 or later, and your deployed new appliance has to match that existing version. Then we're going to go through migrate the database. So we're going to show how to, actually, we're not going to do this in this video. So the database portion, I actually went through the MySQL migration probably 5 to 6 months ago. I put that off for the better part of a year. But if you are still on a MySQL database, the steps are in the document. I'll point those out. You can go through the steps to ensure that your CentOS 7 appliance is also updated to the Postgres database. Then we're going to go through, export the file structure, then we'll export the Postgres database, and then we'll head over to our new appliance, actually go through setting that up. I've done absolutely nothing with the appliance at this point. We're going to import the file structure and database on the new CMP system. So that's what we'll be covering as we go through this video. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the background here. So we're looking at the migrating CloudBolt instance from CentOS 7 to Enterprise Linux 8 article. So you can find this in the CloudBolt documentation. If you look on the left-hand side, go down to upgrading CloudBolt, and then look for that migrating CloudBolt instance from CentOS 7 to EL8 article. We are actually, the summary of steps section here is kind of what I use to build my agenda, as we were just talking through. So we're going to be working through this, kind of going through all of the steps that are included here. We'll probably be bouncing back and forth to this article for the entire thing. The other thing I want to point out with the documentation, I am also looking at if you look at the getting started with CloudBolt, installing CloudBolt section, you can go to our download article link here that takes you to the latest. And I don't want to do that. Let's open that in a new tab. But now that that's open in a new tab, what we can do, you can see here, 2024.1 has new download articles here. We actually want to go to 2023.5. And then from this 2023.5 article, you can get to the latest OVA for Oracle Linux. You could also deploy, we have the bits here for the installer, and this installer could be leveraged to install on maybe a RHEL operating system. Or some other kind of enterprise Linux flavor. So I think the OVA is a good alternative for a lot of our customers, but if not, you can also go with the installer here. Or if you've deployed in your AWS or Azure accounts, I think most of those marketplace images are probably at Oracle Enterprise Linux 8 already. If they're not, you could deploy, again, your own OEL 8 image and then leverage this installer to get the most up-to-date image available. So again, use this. 2023.5.103 is going to be key here. We can see, I'm going to drag my vCenter over here. But in my vCenter, I've already deployed 2023.5.103. I haven't even powered it on yet. I'm basically going to replace this old machine with the new one. So as I power this on, I'm going to go in and put the old IP address in for the old appliance. I want this to be a 1-for-1 replacement, but I don't want to power it on until this one's powered off. I don't want to steal the IP address or anything like that. So that's what we'll be working through. All right, back to the agenda slide, because I'm realizing as I'm thinking through this in the middle of the video that there's a couple of things that I am not going to be covering in the video. Just wanted to cover this off. So deploying the new CloudBolt appliance, we have plenty of documentation for that, plenty of resources. I think most of the people that would be watching this have already gone through that process. So I'm not going to cover that. I've already deployed my new appliance in my vCenter with the OVA image. But again, that could also be something in Azure or AWS. The next step, the upgrade, the existing CentOS 7 appliance. My existing appliance that is on CentOS 7 is already at 2023.5.103. Just again, ensure that your two appliances are at the same version. And again, I will not be doing the MySQL to Postgres migration. So we're going to jump right in and start with exporting the file structure, and then we're going to export the Postgres database from that existing appliance. Okay, so back to our documentation. So the migration docs. Again, summary of steps. We're just going to kind of be following along here. Here's some tips for finding your CMP version, those types of things. Like I said, I think going to 5.103 is probably the best bet. Just that way you have both appliances on the latest supported CentOS 7 image. We are going to be doing this migration for a monolithic CMP server. This is just for a single instance. For the high availability, there's some recommendations towards the bottom, I believe. I don't see us calling them out specifically, so you may want to reach out to support. The steps are going to be similar, right? You're going to need the appropriate versions in both places, and you're going to need to migrate the database over to the new instance. So once you've done that, it should be a fairly similar process. So anyway, monolithic server. So CMP upgrade, again, not going to do that. Migrate database, not going to do that. So we're going to start with preparing the EL8. Actually, I think I'm going to take this a little out of order now that I think through it. Deploying CMP on an Enterprise Linux 8 server. So this would be, let's just look through these steps real quick. Yeah, I've already done method 2. So I've deployed my CMP appliance from an OVA. I have not gone through the instructions for deployment yet. Again, I just want to use the same IP. I don't want to power it on until I'm ready. We'll cover that as we get past the export portion. But let's start with exporting data from the source CMP. So perform tests. Say, okay, CMP should be in a functioning state. Let's just look at that real quick in my instance. So functioning state means you can access the UI, obviously. Let's go to all admin. One of the things that I would check here is to be sure that you look at the system status. I could be forgetting what it's called. There we go, system status. I was right. One of the things to look at first is to ensure that our health checks are coming back as expected. So it looks like everything's responding in my instance. I would start here. Multi-tenancy data integrity might be down a little bit. I may do some poking around real quick just to make sure. Tenant mismatch between resource handler and environment tenant test. Let me just poke around with that real quick and see if I can resolve it. So I was able to clear that up. It's now a yellow status, but it shows working, which is interesting. My disk usage is a little high, so maybe something to pay attention to as I migrate, making sure that the destination server has enough disk, and that we're not going to run out of disk space when we upload the database. Just something to keep an eye on. I'm not overly concerned about this. I'm not doing a ton with multi-tenancy and CloudBolt. And multi-tenancy and CloudBolt, this really is centered around the bring your own cloud kind of an idea. So I may have a customer that is using CloudBolt that they've brought their own vCenter and they don't want me to have access to their credentials, and that's okay. I just deleted the environment that was causing an issue. I wasn't actively using it. So that cleared things up. If you're having additional errors here, you may want to check with the support team prior to getting started with the migration. I'm not overly concerned about it, but this is something good to check as you go through this process. All right, so Downtime of 1 to 2 hours, job engine and HTTP service. I'm the only one who uses this server, so I'm not concerned about that. Prompted for the Postgres password when you run the database dump command. We'll work through that and see if I can figure that out as we go. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but maybe something we can share with the audience here. So let's go through. I'm going to go through each of these steps. I'm going to make this probably half screen. And then I'm going to pull up, I have on just PyCharm, I have my SSH connection set up in PyCharm. You can use whatever SSH terminal you want to, but this allows me to copy and paste so that you can see what's going on. So we're going to stop HTTPD. Actually, the first thing I want to do before doing any of that is make sure that I have a snapshot of this. I'm going to delete all first, and once that's done, I'll take another snapshot of my instance. Okay, my snapshots are deleted. I'm going to go ahead and take a new snapshot real quick. Four. There we go. Perfect. Snapshot's created, so I don't feel bad running any commands now. If I mess something up, I can always recover. So I'm going to go through, again, I'm the only user using this. So I'm going to stop the web service. Then I'm going to stop our job engines. Once that's done. All right, let's go ahead and stop the job engine. All right, job engine is stopped. Export necessary files using the CB export utility. I've never used this, so I'm going to check out the document real quick. CB export and import, interesting. Okay, let's give it a shot. Let's go with the simplified instructions and see how it goes. If not, we can dive a little deeper into the export utility information. We are down here. Now, I'm not sure where this will end up living, so I'm going to change directory to temp. That will allow me to, if I run it from here, I'm assuming it's going to drop the files in here. Well, let's find out. Okay, looks like it's working so far. It does look like it's taking a bit of time on these jobs. I had it paused for at least 30 seconds here. So again, my instance has been around for 5 years. It's been my development instance for the entire time that I've been at CloudBolt. So this may have a lot of data in it. I may want to clean that up. I don't necessarily need those job logs, so that might help save some space with what this is putting together. I'm just going to cancel that. I don't know that I would recommend doing this for your environments, but again, this is a development instance. I'm not overly concerned about it. In your case, I would probably just let that run. Keep those job logs, keep those audit trails, but I'm going to go ahead and remove those. So I'll pause real quick while I do that, then I'll get back to exporting. Okay, I have an empty jobs directory now, so I can change back over to var temp. Okay, I do. So I'm going to get rid of that CB exporter temp. So don't need that there. I'm assuming that got created when I first ran the command. Let's go back to run our command. See how this goes. It's already past the jobs, but we're exporting the CloudBolt directory now, so we will need that data. All right, so the export is done. I am not sure how long this took because I stepped away for lunch in the middle of it, but I waited for maybe 15, 20 seconds and walked away. So I don't think it was too long, but we got all of my files. It's all included in a zip file. Let's just see what that looks like. See how big it is. Tar files. 3 gigs. Hold on. Looks like about 3 gigs. So a lot of data that was included there. And that didn't include the job log. So it looks like there's quite a bit. So we'll get that moved over here in a minute. The next step is going to be to get the Postgres database from the source CMP. So as the root user, so I'm in as root. If you're not logged in as root, make sure you do a sudo su dash. Probably need to do that before doing the first step as well. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it'll actually export the Postgres password. Let's see if we can do that. It didn't complain. So we didn't have to know the password. It looks like it's stored in the file. Is that? That may be one. Following commands. I can't tell how many commands this is. That looks like one command. This looks like a different command. PG dump, is that should that be on the same line? I don't know. Actually, this looks like it's a command line for this -f option. Let's see how this goes. Again, 5 years of a development database. This could take a minute, so I'll go ahead and pause and pop back in when it's complete. All right, now it looks like that's done. The next step would be getting these files over to the next appliance, or actually getting it all for this appliance. I'm going to go ahead and use more Windows. So I usually use not WinZip. Yeah, WinSCP. I don't think that's the one I want. That's a command line one. All right. Can't get this over to the screen yet. There we go. So we are in var temp. There's my CloudBolt dump. So those are my files, and there's my database backup. So I'm going to download both of those. I'm just going to put them under my downloads folder. It's fine for now. And we'll wait for that to complete. All right, so I actually ended up switching to a server in my lab environment because I'm thousands of miles away and it was taking way too long to download. So using it in our lab environment made that download a lot quicker. So I have my 4 gigs worth of files now. They should be under my downloads folder, just that way I can get back to it to upload to the other instance once it's online. There we go. There's my 2 files, the 2 tars. Now we're going to go ahead and close out of that. Now we need to import the files and database into the target CMP. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down the existing one. So I'm going to shut down the guest. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and power on the new one. And I'm going to, again, I wanted to transfer the IP address from that original appliance over to this new one. So we're going to kind of walk through that process here. I can actually power this on while I'm waiting for that to. Yeah, so that's already gone through its steps. I don't even recall what my IP address should be there, but I can do ping. Okay, there's my IP address, so I can use that in the new server. I am going to need to log into the console. Probably already seen this. But there we go. Let's go ahead and give it fully qualified domain name. IP address. So that mask is accurate. believe that's correct. I see Linux, we're good with that. We can always change the DNS information if this turns out it didn't work. So now it's going through, it's configuring the networking for the appliance. So I should be able to see. Oh, you know what? The network configuration isn't going to work. I'm going to have to go through and set that up real quick. I believe this is fixed in newer versions, but there's something in the configuration file that we'll fix here in a minute. All right, I actually didn't have to do anything. It looks like it's been fixed in this release. So it rebooted a couple of times, went through some additional processing things. Looks like I'm getting a reply from the system now. So we should be good to now go back over and upload to this appliance. So I'm just going to reopen. So security breach, it doesn't like the updated certificate because it's a different appliance, but I'm okay with that. So notice there's nothing in var temp now. I'm going to go ahead and upload the CloudBolt dump. So those are our files. And then, nope, not that. I want the Postgres backup. Go ahead and upload those back to this new appliance. Give that a minute. All right, everything's been uploaded to that appliance. Now I just want to, so we're on task 5 now. So make sure the target CMP user interface is reachable. I haven't checked that yet, so let's go back to just the UI. One thing you will notice is you do not want to, I don't have my certificates on here or anything yet, so I'm just gonna bypass this warning. We will get this fixed in a minute. So this is what we want to see here. We are at that license screen. Notice, do not install a license here. We already have the license file in the database, so we're going to use that when we're pulling it in. It does recommend a snapshot or a backup of the server. So now that it's up and running, I'm going to go ahead and say snapshots, take snapshots. Migration in. That way, if we mess something up royally, we can restore pretty quickly. There we go. Snapshot is complete. Back over to the instructions. Copy the database dump and CB dump files from task 4 on the target machine. Already did that. I'm ahead of the game. SSH to the target CMP server. Let's go ahead and kick off another SSH session. It's going to warn about certificates. That's okay. It's a new appliance. Same name, new appliance. I am going to stop both the Apache service as well as the job engine service. And then I'm going to go ahead and do database dump using PG restore. Okay, so we've stored our Postgres password. I'm assuming directory. This does not look like what I wanted to see. Drop database. Change permission to root. Drop user. So drop database. It looks like we were able to execute, even though we showed permission denied, it looks like drop database worked. Drop table space, drop schema. It didn't exist, so we're okay with that. Drop role, table space, database. I don't see any other issues, so I think we're okay here. Just reading through what we're doing in the database. Then let's restore, but we do want to make sure that our file path is correct. Just going to check that real quick. So var temp pgbase-backup.tar. pgbase-backup.tar. That should be correct. Let's hope this works. It's not complaining yet. That's usually a good sign. This also says it could take anywhere from a few minutes to a couple of hours. So I'm going to go ahead and pause so we're not sitting here for that entire time. If it takes that long, the export only took 30 seconds. So hoping it's not too long, but we'll pause and come back. While this is running, just a thought came to mind and how I might approach this from a production standpoint. You could always, because you do need to stop the Apache and the job engine services before exporting, you could always export your database and your files from your primary instance and then restore them to the secondary instance with a different IP address. And then when you're ready to switch things over, basically shut the primary, the older instance down, the CentOS 7 instance down, re-IP the Oracle Enterprise Linux instance with the IP address from the original instance, and that would help just mitigate the amount of downtime if this is for a production system. That also gives you some time to test against the newer instance, maybe even offline for a day or two or a week. Now you would run into some, that's probably a bad idea because you get into some database drift there. But yeah, I think we clearly stated in the doc, this is a couple hour process to get this migration completed. So yeah, so just some ideas, but I think best practice is probably end to end, just because if you open the existing portal back up and users are using it, some of those objects are going to change. Some may be deleted, some may be created, and we're not going to necessarily capture those. Now, Discovery should capture those in time, but maybe we lose some job intelligence or orders and other types of things that might be stored in the database. So thanks for sitting with me as I worked through that out loud. All right, we're back. So it did take quite a while. I want to say it was 40 minutes to do the database restore. So this can depend on a couple of different factors. Could be your storage speed, could be the size of your database. I would plan for some time for that to happen, to just make sure your maintenance window covers a long period of downtime. Removing a lot of data as part of this process. Okay, next step, we're going to go ahead and import the files using the CB import. Let's go ahead and do this. Don't know that that's what we want, but we're going to tab that out. There we go. It pulled in the right date from tab. Let's go ahead and import those files. I'm going to pause while it goes through this and hopefully give you an idea of how long this process took once it's completed. All right, so it looks like that, and that again stepped away for a few minutes. I think that only took maybe 2 to 3 minutes to complete. So our files are now uploaded. It says stop HTTPD and Job Engine, but I think we mean start HTTPD and Job Engine. Let's see how things go. Let's see if we can get this functional. All right, that was quick. Should take a minute. Let's see if we can start hitting the. It's not what you want to see. See if we can hit the UI. Server localhost. Password authentication failed for CBDBA. So I'm thinking part of this I'm wondering if in our so here's my configuration for the old appliance. I don't think we used the old password, so I may have to update the Django password for Postgres here. So I'm going to go ahead and use let me go back over to our migration process, because remember we did this PG password command. So I'm just going to echo that. I'm going to pause this real quick. Just don't want to be printing my Postgres database password, but I'm going to pause it for just a second and see what that looks like. All right, I think what's happening is we look at, so I'm in my ProServe directory, the customer settings file. So if we take a look at this, you'll see if we scroll down a little bit here under the database section, I actually had, because I migrated from MySQL to Postgres, I had to specify the database setting in the customer settings file. However, because I deployed this new appliance on Oracle Enterprise Linux 8, I should have something under the opt manage, opt CloudBolt settings local.py. So completely different database password. What I think will get us running though is I'm going to just take my customer settings.py file. I'm going to delete the entire database section out of here. I don't think I need that anymore. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm hoping that this will save. Logging in, uploading customer settings. Okay, so now if we go back to customer settings now, we should see let's make this a little bigger now. There we go. The databases section is gone. It goes right to logging. So now what that should do is if we restart Apache again, that should take a little longer this time. I think last time it gave us an error. Let's see if we can get a status off of this. Okay. I think that looks better. Let's see if we can start the job engine now that that's been resolved. So if you have that databases setting in your file, just be sure to remove it. Hopefully this helps somebody out, because I'm a little wasn't expecting that to happen. Job engine started without yelling at me. That's a good start. Let's go ahead and cross your fingers. It's not giving me an error yet. That's usually a good start. Getting to my login page. So once our database connection is up and running, another good place you could watch is to go to your varlog CloudBolt application.log file and see what's happening there. As well as, I bet, let's just check this out real quick. Actually, it's going to be in the Apache logs. Usually when Apache doesn't start appropriately, it's in the HTTPD logs. And it's typically in the, let's do the SSL error log. Go down to the very bottom. Import UI extensions. Starter doesn't like a couple of the ZUIs that I have running, but I can fix that later. I'm not super worried about that. I would bet I'm not going to go through this because that's not the point of this video. Let's refocus. Let's see if we can log in. It's not what we were expecting. Logged out in a concurrent request. Let's try it again. Try this one more time. I'm thinking maybe the single sign-on. I had a session set up with the old server. I'm going to close all of my browsers just to remove any kind of cache that may be happening. Let's try this again from scratch. And if it doesn't work here, I'll try an Edge and I can figure out what's going on with Chrome in a minute. Go ahead and log in. Hopefully this works this time. We can see that I'm hitting my SSO provider now, so that's a start. I'm also thinking that I may have reduced the resources on this new appliance as well. There we go. That's better. So if you're not able to log in, it may have some hung SSO credentials. Close your browser out completely. Attempt to reload. Now let's go to all admin. I'm just going to check my system status. The other thing I'll point out here, notice I'm not getting that SSL error that I was getting when I first loaded, because part of that file export and import included my SSL certificate. So we still have the appropriate SSL certificate as part of the export import process. Here we go, system status, just see how everything's looking. It's a good start, exactly where we were. So the yellow for multi-tenancy data integrity, still not sure what that is, but I'll check with the team, see if we can figure that out. And my disk usage is a little lower on this instance as well. So I think I'm up and running. I think this kind of ends. Let's just check the slide. Yep, so import the file structure database on the new CMP system. Let's just submit one real quick request, make sure that we're seeing things end to end and that things are working as needed. I think we're good to go here. And it's off and running. Job engine's running. If not, these bars wouldn't be moving. This job wouldn't have gotten kicked off. So it's already going out doing some of my orchestration steps, checking with external systems. But it did fail. Let's see why. Delete server jobs tied to it. Let's go back to the blueprint level, see what we can see. Blueprint deployment failed. Let's check our order. Tried 3 times to deprovision. Doesn't like something. Let's just make sure. Unable to load plugin OneFuse property toolkit. You know why? It's because I rely on OneFuse for some of these things, and I don't know that we haven't. Let's check. Fuse property toolkit. Could be interesting. Any other? So one of the things I know that this won't work. Probably because I bet that one of the things you may run into is if you've installed any additional modules on your CloudBolt system, that's probably also a prerequisite before these orders will function again. So one of the things I have in working in my system is having OneFuse installed automatically. Let's go through and provision server hook point. So they're here. It sees the plugin. So the plugin's all transferred over as expected. What I'm betting didn't happen, since our Apache just started for the first time, I'm betting that I don't have pip installed or OneFuse installed for pip appropriately. Let's do this, because this is kind of outside of this is just me troubleshooting to get things working appropriately again. I'm going to disable all the OneFuse ones because I think that's what's causing issues. I'll come back, re-enable those later after I have things fixed, but that's not really the scope of this video. What I'm suspecting will fix it is just a pip install OneFuse on the system. It's unable to load because it can't see the module as it's going to pull those plugins in. What I suspect is happening. Let's find out. Again, just want to make sure I have a successful request. Then we can continue to test other requests from there. Here we go. So it looks like it's cloning the virtual machine with vCenter now, so that's a good start. Making it a little bit further. We're past all of the, yeah, so it's going into the virtual machine folders now. So I think we're making progress now. There we go. It's moving along now. Past the clone stage, configuring the NIC, waiting for VM tools to register as running. I think we're good. Going to pause one more time just to ensure that this completes successfully. Then we can put a check mark in this. Couple of things. So I did get OneFuse working again. There's an update for OEL. If you are using OneFuse, when you go to that new appliance or all of your new appliances, if it's an HA deployment, you'll need to run these 3 commands to get the OneFuse Python module installed. Once that's done, I was able to re-enable my orchestration actions. Now it's going back through. You can see my servers are provisioning correctly. I'm just trying a different template here, but things are back up, running. The upgrade was, with the exception of the OneFuse caveat, pretty painless. Just took a minute to restore the database portion. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to your support team. They should be able to get you any answers that you need to ensure that your CloudBolt upgrade process is a seamless one. This concludes another video in the How Do I Do Something in CloudBolt video series. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Some of these can get to be a little bit lengthy. If you have any questions at all regarding anything that we've covered today, or really just anything about CloudBolt in general, please reach out to your account team. We're happy to cover any questions you may have. And we're always looking for additional ideas to cover as part of this series. So please reach out to your account team. Let us know how we can help you. And happy automating with CloudBolt.